Some huge wins for Coventry, Cardiff and Stoke, whereas the likes of Luton continue to struggle. Here's my roundup of the Championship, round number 8. Starting down at Turf Moor on Tuesday night, Burnley 1, Plymouth 0. The exact scoreline I predicted, I did say 1-0, although looking at the stats, in fairness, looking at the highlights, I mean, I kind of thought Burnley would edge this with a low chance creating game where they edged it with a moment of quality. But to be fair, they look like the better side here. Limited Plymouth to pop shots from range, really. Plymouth 7 shots, not one of them on target, whereas Burnley did look the more threatening and the much better side, without maybe blowing Plymouth away as you might expect them to do. Maybe the gulf between these two sides isn't as big as we maybe had thought a few weeks ago, but the main thing for Burnley was I thought they looked good from what I could see. They got the win, which is important. Plymouth still remain a team that, although are improving, haven't done anything to convince me that they've got enough in them yet to start picking up the amount of points I think they'll need to on the road if they're to just be sure of survival and sure that they're not going to be dragged into anything too serious. So they still need to improve on that front, whereas Burnley, this is a big result and one that I think they'll be happy to take the 3 points from. Cardiff 1, Millwall 0. What a big result this was for Cardiff. I'll be honest, I didn't expect them to win and they let me down in my acca. But yeah, it's a huge win for Cardiff. I mean, yeah, the run they've been on, the start to the season they've had, they're at a point where they just need to get 3 points on the board regardless. It doesn't matter how it comes, and it came via a header from Perry and G. From what I could see, both sides were relatively equal. You know, you look at the stats, pretty much similar. Number of shots identical, really. Shots on target. Looks like Millwall maybe created the slightly better chances, but at the end of the day, Cardiff took theirs. A clean sheet as well is absolutely huge for Cardiff, given the goals they'd conceded. 17 goals thus far. Clean sheet here, I think, is just as important as the 3 points itself. So a big win for Cardiff. I think just because of how the table's looking, another 1 or 2 results, and they'll be out the bottom 3, and this bad start will be long behind them. So, you know, for them, it's all about capitalising on this now and maybe getting another victory and trying to maybe build up some momentum. And as for Millwall, this is why I hold off on them being a really solid playoff contender, because they can have results like this where they've been a goal-scoring machine for the most part, and they go to the worst team in the league in terms of the league table, who've conceded 17, and they fail to put 1 past them, which, yeah, is a bit of a shame for them. Coventry 3, Blackburn 0. Finally, Coventry's season has lifted off. Maybe. I did say in my predictions that I'd chosen to not back Coventry because I'd continued to be let down by them, and they go and deliver a 3-0 win. So, for the sake of Coventry, I might just back them to draw every game and not win again this season, and maybe they'll continue to prove me wrong and do the opposite of what I say. But yeah, this was a big win for Coventry, I think, at home in front of their own fans against a team who've started the season really well. Blackburn Rovers, a massive win for them. I think it's also important that Haji Wright and Thomas Asante got on the score sheet. I think getting their forwards in the goals is massive for Coventry. So that on top of a clean sheet, I think it's the exact result they needed. And Blackburn had a few chances, I feel, but yeah, this maybe is the little bit of a bump back down to earth that they might have needed. I don't know, after their start. I still think their home form's going to prop them up massively, but this is an away defeat they'll certainly want to get over quickly. Luton 2, Oxford 2. Wow. I mean, I'll hold my hands up to Oxford. And listen, I was basing it off of what I'd seen away from home this season, and I did say if Luton couldn't get past Oxford, there was something massively wrong. And I tell you what, this game could have gone both ways. Granted, Luton had chances to win it as well, but Oxford had more than enough to win it and put up such a brilliant performance here. This wasn't an away side that had been newly promoted who had only 2 shots on target and happened to convert them both and sort of snatched a draw. This was an Oxford side who went to Luton, banged in 19 shots, 8 on target to Luton's 12 and only 4 on target. They had more accurate passes than Luton in the game, more big chances than Luton in the game, albeit Luton were down to 10 men with around 15 minutes to go, but still, what I could gather, Oxford looked brilliant in the highlights. They looked a real threat going forward. Goodrum scored an absolute screamer, and they've come from behind, away to Luton, from 2-0 down. What a point from Oxford, and for the first time this season, I'm going to say I could be wrong about Oxford, and I've been sort of wary to fully buy into the fact that they might survive this season. I still kind of thought, away from home they've not looked good. Can they rely on their home form? I think I'm starting to see enough that they are more than competitive enough, and they've got a big chance of staying up this season. And I really hope that's the case, because if they do stay up, Des Buckingham will have done a phenomenal job. So it's an unbelievable point, and what looked like a great performance from Oxford, and I've got to just give them that chunk of credit right there. But equally, Luton Town's season just will not get going. I mean, from 2-0 up, this is a game they should be closing out. Terrible tackle as well, down to 10 men. It's just not going for them. Adebayo had chances again here. Still hope that eventually things will click. Eventually things will get going for Luton Town, but even when they were in a prime position here, they were pegged back and they dropped 2 big points. So more questions will be asked of them. Oxford, though, are really starting to impress me. Norwich 1, Leeds 1. I did predict a draw here, a 2-2 draw, albeit finished 1-1 in the end. And I think looking at the chances and the overall play, I think Norwich will be the happier. Leeds certainly looked like they had better chances. Leeds missed quite a few chances, which has been the story of their season quite a bit. So I do think Norwich will come out the happier that they took something from this game. But still, they were competitive up against a Leeds side who will be right up there. I think Norwich only had the 1 shot on target, which, is a little bit of a concern, you could say, going forwards. But I just feel like at the minute things are still clicking, and a point against Leeds is still a very, very good point. So I still feel like Norwich coming out second best, you could say, at least statistically, and from what I could see against Leeds, there's nothing wrong with that. I still feel like they're making very good progress under their new manager. Leeds, I think, will be a bit disappointed they didn't come away from this game with more, but again, point at Carrow Road might end up being a big one come the end of the season in hindsight. So I think both teams will equally take a point here, although I think Norwich will be the slightly happier. QPR 1, Hull City 3. Now, I'm going to hold my hands up once again. I looked at Hull and I went, you know what? They've beaten Stoke and Cardiff. So I'm not going to get too excited. But they're now banging goals in left, right and centre. They hit 3 against Stoke. Was it 4 at the weekend? Another 3 here. 10 goals in 3 games for Hull City. And they're really starting to build up a little bit of momentum now. And they took their goals brilliantly well. Drame's goal was an absolutely beautiful finish. I think it's quite big for them that Badia got himself on the score sheet here as well. I think it is fair to say Hull were just the more clinical team. It looked like a great game from the highlights. It looked like both teams had chances. I mean, from the stats, QPR had more than enough. 21 shots, 7 on target to Hull's 15 and 6 on target. So I think QPR will maybe be a little bit aggrieved that they've come out off the back of a 3-1 defeat here, when maybe in their mind, given the chances they had, it was never a 3-1 game. But you've got to just hold your hands up to the opposition and just say they took their chances and we didn't. So Hull City building some momentum now. I'm still not going to buy into them being a playoff team or anything by that stretch, but you've got to give it to Tim Volter and his team for turning around what was a pretty mediocre to poor start only a week or so ago. QPR, I don't know. I mean, they're in the bottom 3 at this point. Only 1 win on the board. That's the concern. I think they need a win, and they need a win soon. And I think since that Luton win, things just haven't quite gone their way, and they just need to turn draws into wins, and they need to start being a bit more clinical. So maybe not quite time to panic just yet, but I think they're probably going to need a good win sooner rather than later. Sunderland 2, Derby 0. This was a banker, you could say. Sunderland to win at home, given the fact Derby's away record has been absolutely dismal. And when I looked at the score, I thought, that's exactly what I thought. Sunderland dominant, shots galore. Derby might have mustered a shot on target from a corner. Easy. But it wasn't, because looking at the stats and the highlights, Derby had some real opportunities in this game, and they more than held their own. And I think Sunderland just took their chances unbelievably well. Bellingham scored an absolute cracker. Isidore scored from one of their only other 2 shots on target. So Sunderland did what good teams do, and they take their chances when presented. And that's what they've done this season, and that's where they are. And I think that's a lesson to Derby, who I think can take positives from this performance. However, they will be ruining the fact that they didn't score from the chances they created. They did force Patterson into some good saves at times. So I think, albeit the result is more of the same on the road for Derby, they can definitely take positives from what they've done at the Stadium of Light, which is one of probably the hardest places to go in the league right now. Sunderland, though, keep marching on, keep being clinical, and it's another win that sends them back to the top of the league. West Brom 0, Borough 1. As always, there is a full Project Borough review in depth on this game, but this was a statement victory from the Borough, and I describe this as us finally showing the true colours of this Borough side, finally showing what we are capable of, and showing, I think, what a lot of games have warranted thus far this season. You know, a team that creates a lot but hasn't been scoring enough, and a team that doesn't give up much in terms of chances and yet finds ways to concede. This was more like it from Borough. This, I think, was the real Borough on show. With the better side first half, missed some glorious chances once again. However, second half finally took our chance through Hayden Hackney and then defended unbelievably well for the rest of the second half. Had one scare with Josh Madger in the second half, and Senny made a good save from Jed Wallace in the first, but we limited West Brom to only 1 shot on target. And I think that just shows that Borough's defence has been fantastic this season and doesn't give up much at all. It's just cutting out the individual errors, which we did on this occasion. So yeah, given West Brom's home record, getting anything from the Hawthorns was big, never mind a win. And it's back-to-back wins for us now. Clean sheets in a row as well, so I think we're finally starting to tick and go through the gears. I think Carrick's found the right balance, especially in attack. However, West Brom, they'll be a bit disappointed. I don't think they were as bad as what some West Brom fans were saying to me after the game, but were not as good as I expected them to be. I don't know if that's because Borough defended so well or West Brom just weren't quite at it in attack. But Borough right back in the mix now after what we deem a pretty mediocre start, especially given the points we dropped. We could have easily been in and around the top 3 or 4 by this point. West Brom just need to bounce back quickly and ensure that these 2 defeats in a row don't go any further than that. And into Wednesday, starting off at Deepdale, Preston 3, Watford 0. Now, the scoreline would suggest that this was an absolute rout by Preston. However, looking at the highlights, wow, Watford had some chances. At 0-0, they had chances, I think, at 1-0, at 2-0. You know, Woodman made a huge save early on in the first half, which could have flipped the game in a different direction. I think Watford had another one off the line as well. They missed a sitter at 2-0 from what I gathered. So, yeah, Watford, I think, will definitely be ruining their missed opportunities at crucial moments in this game. But Preston took their chances when they come. They were helped, I think, with some really poor defending for Preston's opener. Watford were just so open at the back when Ismajic tapped home from a cross. McCann's third was an absolute cracker. And to be fair, really high quality chances created by Preston in this game. And it was good to see them actually take the majority of them. And, you know, looking at their results this season, I think Preston have been more than okay at home. You know, they've got points at home quite comfortably. I think away form is the big thing that Paul Heckingbottom still needs to address. But a big 3 points for them, a huge confidence boost. And Watford are just a funny team, aren't they? I gave them a credit at the weekend after beating Sunderland. And I thought, okay, maybe they are better than I thought and they're not regressing as much as I thought. But then they go and lose 3-0 at Preston. I feel like they will be a very up and down, inconsistent team. And I think naturally, regardless of short-term wins here and short-term defeats there, I think they are just going to regress to a team that will be inconsistent, middle-of-the-road, mid-table side, who just don't quite have the consistency and the quality to win the games they should, like tonight, although they should have and they had chances. So yeah, disappointing for them, great win for Preston. Sheffield United 1, Swansea 0. Almost the Sheffield United score that I always predict, but this team don't concede, do they? They don't give you a thing. You can pretty much put your mortgage on Sheffield United getting a clean sheet at this rate, honestly. They limited Swansea to 1 shot on target in this game, despite Swansea having much more possession, but when Sheffield United had the ball, they looked very, very threatening going forward. 15 shots, 3 on target. I think their only concern, like a few games this season, is that maybe they just should have scored more. But they were gifted the lead via quite a hilarious own goal from Timon just before half-time. But Sheffield United have a knack of just winning these sort of games, keeping clean sheets. They've got all the hallmarks for me of a team that are just going to be right up there. As I say, time and time again, they're not setting the league alight. They're just going about their business and they just keep on doing it. So I've got nothing, else to say about Sheffield United that I've not said already. Swansea, similar really. I think, again, they're a side that'll do well against lower opposition, but they'll fall short against the top sides, which will probably equate to them being in and around mid-table. Stoke, 6. Portsmouth, 1. Wow. Where on earth did this come from? I thought this was Pompey's first win. I did. I'll hold my hands up, Stoke. I thought, oh my God, Stoke look terrible. They are an absolute shambles. But oh my word, this was unbelievable from Stoke. The finishing was out of this world. I mean, Cannon blasting, pardon the pun, 4 goals today. Some of the goals he took, the finishing was just unbelievable. And this was the Tom Cannon from a few seasons back at Preston. This was the Tom Cannon that was sought after by a lot of the top championship clubs who, ended up going to Stoke, and you think, what's he doing there? It's a step back in his career, and I wouldn't say he started like a house on fire, but this is a reminder of what he can do. And 4 goals, some of them were taken absolutely beautifully. Gallagher's was a strike. Moran's was a strike. I mean, yeah, will Stoke be as clinical as this all season? Probably not. But for me, this was so much better from them. They absolutely peppered the Portsmouth goal. 20 shots, 8 on target, 6 goals. I mean, they overperform massively in terms of what they created, and it won't happen very often. But what a confidence-boosting win this could be. And this might really kickstart Narcis Palash's time as Stoke boss. So we'll see. We've gotten excited about Stoke City many, many times, and we've been bitten on the backside pretty much every single time. So let's see if they can back this up. But nevertheless, brilliant performance, brilliant finishing. But Pompey, oh my God, Pompey. I have been looking forward to this game from a Pompey point of view. Well, since the start of the season, you look at the fixture list and you think, oh my God, rule out the first 7 because it's ridiculous. I think the 7 they've played so far were 7 of the top 8 at the time of this fixture. And you look at the Stoke game and you think, right, this is the chance. First win. Prove to everyone that you're competitive. Prove to everyone, which I think they've done already, against real top sides, that you can compete and beat teams that will be in and around you. I think it's not unfair to suggest that Stoke won't be far away from Pompey in and around mid-table, lower mid-table this season. And I just had such hopes that they'd finally show everyone and get a result that warrants, I think, their performances throughout the season, because they dropped points late at Borough, they dropped points late at Leeds, I think Burnley as well. So I looked at this and I thought, okay, this is the opportunity for Pompey. And then they go and lose 6-1. And that... Yes, Stoke were very, very good, but 2 shots on target for Pompey here. And I mean, how can you not be worried about a team after they've lost 6-1? But I just had such high hopes for them in this game. And now it's a bit of a concern, and it could destroy confidence. Finally, I think they'll have been looking forward to this game. Looking at it in the calendar of fixtures, Pompey will have targeted this game as the one where they can finally get a point, get some points on the board, and for this to be the outcome could be shattering for them. So I really hope they bounce back, and they bounce back quick, because this could be a really damaging result for them, because it's not their fault they've played 7 of the top 8 teams so far, but they can't be losing 6-1 away to Stoke. And the goalkeeper had a shocker for one of Cannon's goals, clattered into him for the penalty. Yeah, the first time I think I can safely say there are a few alarm bells regarding Pompey going off in the back of my mind. And finally, Bristol City 0, Sheffield Wednesday 0. Well, that's a bit of a different game, isn't it? From 6-1 to 0-0. Not much to talk about here, other than I think Bristol City will be disappointed they didn't come out on the right side. They looked like they had the better chances in this game, so I think it'll be 2 points dropped from them, especially at home where they've been better this season. Sheffield Wednesday still not flattering to deceive, even though they have picked up from the first 4 and certainly look like they've stopped the goals going in. Still, I'm just not convinced that they've got quite enough going forward at the moment. So I think they'll snatch a hand off from a point, although I'm still far from convinced by them this season. So there's my roundup of round 8, guys. Big thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts on your team in the comment section below as always, and smash the like button if you've enjoyed the video, and subscribe for much, much more. I am going on holiday now. This is my last video until after the international break. There will be a few videos that I've pre-recorded dotted over the next 2 weeks, which are all FIFA career mode videos, so if that interests you, then stick around for them. But I won't be back until just before the 10th round of fixtures, straight after the international break. So by the time I get back, there'll be no time to do any predictions. So I'll probably be back in terms of championship content, rounding up round 10 in just over 2 weeks' time. So I'll catch you guys then. Fingers crossed for all of you and your teams at the weekend for round 9. And I'll see you all in a few weeks' time.